for almost a year. What I'm going to teach you in the coming semesters or the current semester is that in this semester I'll teach you systems biology, and in the next semester I will teach you molecular evolution and next generation sequencing. So these three topics I'm going to teach to you. Definitely, I'll be also be teaching you something about R language in the um, next generation sequencing itself. So you will be familiar with R language during my classes. And these are also my areas of research. So first, I would like to know what is your opinion about systems biology? How systems biology is different from conventional biology? Any response from your side? You can interact freely with me. Okay? So, what is your opinion about systems biology? How does it differ from classical biology or classical bioinformatics, you can say?
So it involves mainly pathways, right?
Yeah, Mark, yeah, tell me.
So it involves mainly pathways in the board.
Pathways, yeah. Pathways are, of course, there, but actually the central focal point is here is the interaction. Here we are focusing on interaction. Interaction at every level, at gene level, protein level, metabolite level, and so on. So it's generally in biology what we do, we want to understand a particular disease. We go for a candidate gene of that particular disease. We want to identify a particular gene or a particular protein which is causing that disease. But the thing is that the genes or the proteins are not working in isolation. They work together, So you cannot say that a particular gene is only responsible for some disease. There may be multiple genes acting at a time, and there is some sort of interaction between them. That is also very important. So these are the important things, the important difference between a what you can say a reductionist biology, what we call, and a systems biology. Okay. So here, of course, pathway. Why we are studying pathway? Because pathway also the multiple pathways are there, and all pathways are connected with each other. Connection means there is some sort of interaction. So that interaction is also very important. So the interaction is a very important feature of any any biological process. Okay, so all biological processes are regulated by the interaction. So I think all of you have joined by this time. So I will start now. So what is your how are you progressing in the subject? Let me ask first this question. So are everything going well, or you find any difficulty in studies? Any difficulty you are facing? No studies. Everything going well.
Doing fine, fine, sir. Doing
Fine, very good. So I'll start systems biology introductory part today. What is systems biology? And then we will go further deeply into the subject. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, can you please keep the mic little bit near to the
Mic
voice is
is not
very low.
clear. Okay. Um, Mic is not clear. Okay. Let me increase my sound volume also. I think with that now mic is clear to you.
Yes, sir.
It is not clear.
Clear, sir, clear. Clear.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So yeah. So if you face any difficulty, let me know because it is very difficult to monitor the things virtually. So I will give you some idea today about introduction to systems. So during the process, we will be studying so many books and the review papers. Actually, these subjects are evolving subjects, so there is no standard textbook as such. So what I will do, based on the particular chapter, I will give you some review papers or I will suggest you some books, and based on that you have studied. There is no such standard textbook in the field. Now, fortunately, I'm going to publish one book with Springer in by October. Okay, that book you will get the full introduction to systems biology. One chapter is there on systems biology. Once the book is published, I will share my chapter with you. Okay. Now I cannot share because it is a copyright issue. Okay. So maybe in October it is going to be published. In November I will share it. No problem. Then so I am presenting you your entire screen. So what could be the introduction of a systems biology? I think you can now see my presentation. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So in the introduction, what I can tell you, is what is systems biology? Is it just another name of physiology? So as you know, in a physiology we study the whole body function. Okay? But here we are trying to understand the complex biological processes as an integrated system of many interacting components. As I told you, the interaction is a very important feature of systems biology. So we are looking at interactions, and these interactions ultimately lead to the complex biological processes. Like, for example, your brain, a lot of neurons are firing together, and that interactions create some sort of behavior or some sort of response in your body. So therefore, our systems biology involves collection of large set of experimental data. Here we are getting not a very small amount of data, but it's a large set of experimental data we are getting. Maybe microwave experiment, maybe NGS experiment. And based on the experimental data, we are proposing a mathematical model that will account for at least some significant aspect of this data set. So we are trying to propose a mathematical model based on your data. Then next step is the accurate computer solution of the mathematical equations to obtain numerical predictions. So you can get the accurate computer solution of the mathematical equations to obtain the numerical predictions, and you can also assess the quality of the model by comparing the numerical simulations with the experimental data. So you can optimize your model, as well as you can also, just 1 minute, call is coming. Hello. Good morning, madam. Yeah, I got your link. Actually, I was out of station yesterday, so I could not see your mail. So I will definitely join at 1:30. No problem. Yeah. Oh, okay. No problem, madam. It is just fix it. Tomorrow you want to fix it? Yeah, 2:30. Yeah, fine for you. No problem. Okay, madam. Thank you. Yeah. So what we are so here we are assessing the quality of the model by comparing the numerical solutions with the experimental data. Then another part of systems biology is there are two ways of looking at the problem. One is that on the technology side, now we can generate a lot of data, a lot of high throughput data that has made us aware that the biological networks have many components. That is the technology side. Another side is the biology side. Now, biological system we cannot characterize quantitatively in their full complexity. And therefore, in order to understand this system, we need to, because we need a lot of components to understand the system. Therefore, this is the requirement from the biology side. Now, systems biology, how systems biology is different from traditional biology or traditional cell and molecular biology. First thing is that here the experimental techniques are high throughput. Now, high throughput means you are generating a lot of data at a time. For example, microarray data or proteomics data or NGS data, RNA-seq data. The second aspect is that there is a need for intensive computation from the start of the systems biology in order to organize the data into reusable, computable databases. Then exploration of the traditional biology proceeds by successive cycles of hypothesis formation and testing. And data is accumulated during these cycles. And the systems biology, what it does, it gathers the data without prior hypothesis formation. So when you are doing a research, first we fix our hypothesis, that this is my hypothesis. I want to prove that a certain drug has a specific action on certain disease. Okay? So for that, we have to create a hypothesis that my drug is active. And now then you can do the experiment to test whether drug is really acting or not. Here what happens, here you are gathering the data without knowing that what is your hypothesis. First you gather the data, and then you analyze the data, and then you create your hypothesis. So just it is going in reverse order. So if you look at the evolution of genomics, in 1990s, in the 1990s, we came to know about genomics. Then the proteomics era came, and then after that, systems biology era came. Systems biology was very nascent, you can say, in 2000. After 2000, people started talking about systems biology in the Western world. And I have seen some evolution of systems biology. I stayed in University of Chicago between 2007 and 8. That time there was a specific institute for systems biology in University of Chicago. That time no one was talking about systems biology in India. But even before going to Chicago, I had an interaction with the professor of mechanical engineering in one of the NITs, and I worked with him on modeling of certain biological process, and we published it in Systems and Synthetic Biology before my departure to US. But in US, I came to know about tidbits of systems biology by interacting with many stalwarts in the field. And so systems biology was evolving in the Western world in that period. After coming back to India, I started working on systems biology since 2010. Okay. And we do a lot of work related to systems biology in cancer, in understanding psychiatric disease, in understanding the normal biological process in brain, like speech, like intelligence, and all these things. So you can see the systems biology, a kind of wonder science which will solve many problems which you cannot solve using conventional cell and molecular biology. If you look at the systems biology, integration of data, it's an integration of not only data, it's an integration of subject as well. You need to understand biology, you need to understand physics, you need to understand engineering, you need to understand chemistry, you need to understand computer science, you need to understand mathematics, you need to understand medicine, and the interface of all these subjects, systems biology lies. Similarly, in biological system, you have to look at different levels like DNA, biomolecules, networks, proteins, cells, RNA, etc. So you have to look at different parts of the system as well as different from the perspective of different subjects. So systems biology is an integration of not only data but different approaches. What are the techniques that has helped in development of systems biology? One is genomics, that is high throughput DNA sequencing. Another is the mutation detection using SNP method. Another is the transcriptomics using gene transcript measurement, say GeneChip microarrays. Another one is the proteomics, MS2D page protein chips, is2 hybrid X-ray NMR. And another one is the metabolomics, NMR, X-ray capillary electrophoresis. Each system has a method for modeling. So you can find here that each system has a different method for modeling. There are different ways of modeling, like pi calculus, Petri nets, flux balance analysis, differential equations, Boolean networks, electrical circuit model, cellular automata. I'll be mainly focusing in my teaching is the networks and the flux balance analysis, which is widely used. So if you how to integrate the data, how to meaningfully integrate the data. For example, you have the data from genomics, and this data can be of different types. Like you may have transcriptome, which only have the expression levels. You may have proteome, you may have interactome, you may have phenome. Phenome is related to phenotypes. Localizome, where does it localize? And you can integrate all the data and then model it. Okay. After modeling, if you want, you can do the systematic perturbation. You can also change the expression of gene, or we can knock out the gene and see what happens to the model. That is called systematic perturbation. And another approach could be your model, you have a model, based on the model you can synthesize a synthetic organism. Okay. It's like the E. coli model you can develop, or that is the part of synthetic biology. I'll be coming later on. So synthetic biology, you can model it in terms of that. And that model you can also test using systematic perturbation. So you can integrate your model, and then you can, so if you look at the system heterogeneity in size and time scale, there is the atomic scale. You can look at the atomic scale. What might be knowing that molecular dynamics, we look at the movement of the atoms at molecular, at the atomic scale. There could be a system at the level of molecular, like ribosome, and interaction between mRNA, ribosome, and also interaction among different proteins of 10 nanosecond to 10 millisecond. And then there is another approach could be the cellular scale, where it is ranging from 10 to 100 nanometer. If you look at the much larger scale, you can look at the tissue scale for the metabolic input and metabolic output. Organism scale, you can look at the behavior of the organism. That also come in it's also a system. You can also look at the ecosystem, which ranges from 1 kilometer to 1,000 kilometers. You can look at the environmental impact or the nutrient flow of that network. Okay. So interesting thing is that each of the scale doesn't fit together. So if one scale, for example, what happens, one scale may function deterministically. Means you can see the direction, proper direction is there for one scale. For another scale, there may not be direction. For example, if you look at the protein-protein interaction, you may find certain direction. But if you look at the gene-gene interaction, you will find that it's behaving chaotically or stochastically. Stochastic means it's a random process. Sometimes you will see off and on phenomenon. So sometimes gene is switched on, sometimes gene is switched off. And it behaves in a very random way. Therefore, what you find in one scale may not be true at another scale. So therefore, the most biological systems lies between the deterministic order and the chaos. That is the property of a complex system. Any complex system has the property that there will be a deterministic order and chaos, and a biological system is also not an exception to this. If you look at a command-based complex device like Intel Pentium, this is the Intel Pentium, and you can see the complexity of this thing. These are the complex devices made by man. As you know, the building with a computational model of systems is more like a viable project. So how to understand how to control the system and have a predictive power about the system. For example, you can see this pathway. There is a X0, X0 leads to S1, S1 leads to S2, S2 leads to S3, S3 leads to S5, S4 leads to S5, S5 leads to S6. Ultimately, we are getting a X1. So what we can do, we can fix the X0 and X1 and see that all reactions are reversible, and we can also assume a stable steady state. Now you think about what happens with the steady state. if I reduce this, if I S3 to S4 reaction, if I reduce this reaction, and what is going to happen? There will be what could be the reply? Reply could be that nothing happens. Nothing happens unless it is a rate limiting step. Rate V goes down, but that's all. S3 goes up. S4 may go down. The species downstream of V go down. Steady state flow changes, but species levels don't. X0 and X1 will change. So these are the 8 possible outcome of reducing the rate of this reaction S3 to S4 by 50%. Okay. Now, if you are unable to understand a simple equation, how can we understand this pathway? This is the cake pathway. This is the chart showing the cake pathway. So, can you imagine how it is difficult to explain the whole pathway? Okay. So, therefore, we have to understand the data to knowledge. So we have to convert what data we have and to a knowledge by questioning, observing, and hypothesizing. So our questioning part comes first, then observe, then hypothesize. For example, if X genes are upregulated together, are they interacting? PPI network suggests Y are they Y part of a complex? If they are always expressed together, that suggests maybe yes. So as more data is integrated and the systems links together, this becomes easier. So this process becomes easier if more and more data is integrated. So now you can see that, for example, you can have the transcriptome mapping, and based on the transcriptome mapping, you can generate the cluster of expression for the genes, like how many genes are upregulated, how many are downregulated under different conditions. And then you can generate the protein interaction network. And from the protein interaction network, you can do phenome mapping. You can also see the phenocluster with presence and absence of certain phenotypes. And you can also see the localization in different part of the body. Like, for example, C. elegans. C. elegans is in different cells have different expressions. So it's localized to each region. So you can integrate all the heterogeneous and related observation. Now another question is how the data are integrated. So how the data are related to each other. For that, you can do a simple correlation analysis like Pearson correlation coefficient we compute between two variables. And you can just calculate the Pearson correlation coefficient and infer your data. So you can predict that what is the how the different variables are related with each other. And for quantitative analysis of components and understanding the dynamics of complex biological systems, you can start from the static, that is tier 1. This is the static network. So we will be dealing with network biology, many things about static network. Now sometimes we look at the deterministic order. So just you can solve the differential equation for understanding the deterministic. There could be a stochastic process also. Let me discuss with you what are the features of complex systems. How the complex system differs from simple systems. One is that they are non-linear. So linearity means the global property is a simple sum of parts instead of linear. But here, the global properties of any complex system is not a simple sum of parts. In the complex system, there will always be a feedback loop. So when you are having some enzyme, for example, some enzymatic reactions and some metabolic pathways, you have some end product. And these end products in turn regulate the enzyme and make it inactive. So this activation of enzyme and inactivation of enzyme is regulated by the input, and this is called feedback loops. So this is another property of the complex systems. Most of the complex systems are open systems, so energy is lost, dissipation of energy. A complex system also can have the memory, so it will have a response history dependent. So for example, a new protein may remain in the cell after initial response, and shifting the rate of reaction to the next time the cell is exposed to a chemical. There is another feature of complex systems that is called nested. Most of the complex systems are nested. So the modules of the complex systems are, they are nested and they have a complexity. So you can find that these networks are made up of several modules. Okay. Another property is that there is no precise boundary. You can find here this network. We don't have a boundary. Sometimes this network is here, sometimes network is here. So there's no precise boundary for the network. So how do we start? Or so where do we start? So what we do generally, we quantitatively account for these properties. So how the quantity of each variable is changing with time, that we can assess during static modeling. So there could be static interaction, there could be deterministic interaction, there could be stochastic interactions, and based on the type of interactions we can model it. So this is an example of modularity, where you have the interacting nodes with common function, and also there will be constraint pleiotropy and feedback loop. Another very important feature of systems is that there will be a recurring circuit elements. So you can find here this is the feed forward loop where X is activating Y and Y is activating Z, and X is also activating Z. Okay. So this is what happens. X is activating Y, Y is activating Z, and X is also activating Z. This is called a bifan. But in case of bifan, what happens? X and Y, X is activating Z, and X is also activating W. Okay, whereas Y is activating Z as well as W. So this is called the bifan approach. This is called bifan approach. So there are two network motifs you can try. These are the common motifs. One is the feed-forward loop. Another is the bifan approach. Okay, so these are the common network motifs in a network. I'll be discussing all these details in different topics. Then another aspect is the robustness. So if you vary the parameter of a model, it is insensitive to the parameter variation. That is called robustness of the model. So most of the complex systems are robust, and but design, if you design it, there may be robustness may not be there, or if there is a robustness, what happens sometime at some point of time or some part of the model, there will be a less robustness, or it would be sensitive to changes, and therefore if it is sensitive to changes, the system may collapse. If we look at the aim of systems biology, it is talk about interactome, which molecule is talking to each other in the network. That is the first question we ask. Then in deterministic, what we do, we ask that what is the average case of behavior, and another one is the stochastic. In a stochastic model, we look at the variance of the system, because here it is not going in proper direction. So we want to see how much this system varies in a particular property. So how do we do that? One minute. Hello. Good morning. Tell me, Kalasha. Okay. Yeah, I want, no, I want to post the notification. Ah, hmm. Yeah, I have a class in the afternoon also. Yeah. No, you send, you tell Labru to write it and come to me, to my office. Okay. If he comes here even by 1:30, I will do it. No problem. Or, yeah. uh, during lunchtime, you can come to me and get it done here. So, no problem. Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, so much disturbance in the class because I'm taking care of research of the whole university. So this month I took over as a dean research of the university. That's why so many calls are coming for different purpose. So what we want to tell you that so first what you have to do, you have to get a part list. Part list means what are the parts that is available to you. For example, you may look at the different proteins present in a particular organism, or you may look at different genes expressed at a time in a particular organism. And then you can also, so first you get the part list. From the part list, you can enumerate the biochemistry, means how they are related with each other. And then next step will be to define the network or mathematical relationship. A simple relationship could be, for example, two genes are upregulated or two genes are downregulated. What you can do, you can just compute the correlation coefficient between two variables. Okay? And if you get a high correlation, for example, it is 0.8, for example, you have to fix a cutoff by yourself. So if you fix a cutoff that, okay, if it is more than 0.8, I will treat as if they have a strong relationship. Okay. So based on that, you can define the network or mathematical relationship. And then you can compute the numerical solutions based on that. So if you see the deterministic model, the behavior of the system with respect to time, it is predicted with certainty given initial conditions. And in stochastic, what happened in dynamics, you cannot predict with certainty given the initial conditions. Okay. So deterministic model has two components. One is the ordinary differential equations, that is the concentration is the function of time, and the partial differential equation is that concentration as a function of the space and time. And the stochastic update equations, the molecular numbers as random variables, and they will be the function of the time. So if you see the static interactions, which will be studied in detail in some of our classes, like signal transduction, we study protein-protein interaction. Cell cycle, we study the protein-protein interactions. In gene regulation, the protein-DNA interaction is very important. And in metabolic pathways, for example, respiratory pathway or cyclic AMP pathway, this kind of interaction is also very important between the different signaling molecules. What we do generally in static interactome analysis, we first see that network topology. Okay. So network topology means you can see this is a network, and this network, this is a typical example of a network. So you can see the network topology. So there are different parameters we study in network topology. The network can be of different types, maybe regular, maybe random, maybe scale-free. I'm not just to know the terminology, I'm not going in detail what does it mean. And of course, there is a modularity. So you have to study them, analyze the modular structure of the network. There are certain limitations for static interactome analysis because what you get in a particular time in space, and it is a average of the population. So these interactions, you can see the strength of the interaction or the type of the interaction, and I will the details I will discuss later on. Even the static interactome analysis, you can use the data generated by functional genomics like expression analysis, and from expression analysis you can do the network integration. And the graph theory also helps you in this scale-free network, and there is also a small world phenomena associated with the scale-free network that I will discuss later. There are different kinds of softwares that is being studied and that will be used for interactome analysis, like GraphViz, Bioconductor, Cytoscape. For deterministic, generally we use MATLAB or Mathematica or R. Stochastic also we can use R. Yeah, so I think so many softwares are there. So in summary, we can say that systems biology can be done by breaking down each system into modules, and the many problems that remain unsolved in how to do this, but independent efforts are developed in most of the areas. So these are the basic ideas about that. If you want to know more about systems biology, you can see the papers written by Kitano. Kitano is an authority in this field. If possible, I will give you one paper by Kitano. Yeah, so Kitano published one paper, Insight View of the Systems Biology in Nature in 2002. So I'm sharing this paper with you. You just go through this paper to understand what is computational systems biology. Basically, what we are talking about is the computational systems biology. So what I will do, I will share with you in the classroom. So I posted the paper for you. You can just download it from your classroom. Yeah. Now you can ask questions if you want. Okay. Yes. Presentation is over now. Now you can ask questions. Okay.
So no
Yeah.
questions.
No questions, Satish. Why? Why no questions? Either you understood everything or you didn't understand. Which one is correct? You understood everything, whatever I taught? No. Okay. Okay, anyway, tomorrow your class is at 10:30, right?
Yes, sir.
So can we take this class at 1:30 instead of 1:30? You have a library class. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Because I am going to a dentist for treatment of my teeth. So I have some problem in my teeth. So I may come late. That's why we'll start 1:30. 1:30 to 2:30 will do. After that, madam called me for one meeting. Then I will go for online meeting. Yeah, Bablu was telling something. He asked me some question. Is systems biology helping to discovery of biomarker? Yes. Why? Because, for example, you
Okay, sir.
because biomarker, there will be multiple biomarker at a time acting together. Okay? So you are not focusing on one biomarker, but what we are doing, we are looking at different biomarkers which are interacting with each other. Okay? You can see two of my papers recently published, one on mental disorder and another one ovarian cancer. We have developed some biomarkers, some genomic biomarkers for both cases. Yeah.
And sir, second question is how it is going to helpful for the MDR in MDR cases, multi-drug resistance case.
Multi-drug resistance, multi-drug resistance is also a thing of interaction because, multi-drugs are acting at different receptors. So there should be a different receptor for different drugs, receptor molecules in the cell. So it means that if the drug is acting at different receptor at a time, there could be some interaction among the receptors as well. And that receptor is creating some sort of phenotype, which that phenotype gives the resistance power to the cell. So that's why it is directly related with multi-drug resistance if you think in that way. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything more? So who is absent from your class today? How many of you are present? Amal, Subhash, Chandni, Sadia, Vishal, Navrasi, Divya, Bablu, Megha, Hema, Chandan, Arnab, Matangi, Udaya, Vanan, Nishi, Satish. Okay. So who is absent? Can you name?
Everyone is present, sir.
Everyone is present. Okay. So your number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You are 16 student. Okay. Okay. So if you have any further question, you can ask me before I close. So generally we start at if there are 2 classes together, no, we start at 11 o'clock because I cannot continuously speak more than 1 hour. Okay? And then we have interactive session. If you want to ask question, you can ask. Because I feel that teaching is a dialogue, it's not monologue. If you ask, you can extract more from me. Because when we teach, we forget some important facts also. When you ask question, then it can come to our mind. Anyway, it is an introductory class. So I think you have understood what systems biology can do in the modern science, and its importance is going to increase day by day. Yeah.
Sir, your most of the work is related to the R. So can you organize one workshop for us? R
No, what I will do, you see, my job is to teach you. Okay. Anyway, you are here, you are my student. I have to teach you. Before you pass out the course, I will teach you. So what I have done, for MSc, I have introduced one course in R. Okay. But for MTech students, I have introduced NGS paper, next generation sequencing paper. And in that paper, I teach R. Okay. But one way, I will also teach you R during systems biology because I want to show you some of the real examples. And when I will show you some real examples, before that I have to teach you a little bit basic of R. Then only you can do by yourself. Okay. If you are here, if you are in the lab, definitely I will show you, demonstrate you. But the problem is that online I will demonstrate, you have to do by yourself in your computer. Okay. I will definitely teach you R, don't worry. All my students knows R. And this practice is there for last 10 years. It's not for 1 year. Actually, I'm the person who started the revolution of R application in India in life science. So I conducted first workshop on R in India for the life scientists, supported by DBT. That is in 2012. I did it. So last almost 9 years I am teaching continuously R.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Because R is free, no? Anyone can use R. It's very powerful. Even MATLAB, you need a license. So that is not possible for each one of us to do that.
Yes, sir. But sometimes we face problem with the libraries. Means whenever R version is going to update, then most of the libraries won't work, sir, in R.
Library means you are talking about package?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That package, sir.
No. You just always try to keep a recent base package. Recent base R. Okay. Old one you just uninstall. You install the new one.
No, sir. Sir, R version. I'm using the latest version of R, but when I'm trying to use the library, old version of library, then it is not working. So,
No, but use latest is also available. Why you are using old one?
sir, because of the library is not updated, no?
Oh, there could be issue with some packages, but in general, it is not a very big deal.
Like yesterday I was trying to install that Biomart, in my R latest version of R, but it was not working. So because of some package issue, like version issue.
You see, always, if you are there working in a computational biology, no, this is always a serious issue, the compatibility of different softwares, and also even I'm working now for a long time, still I find difficulties. But these difficulties can be sorted out. It's not a permanent problem. Okay, it may be a transient problem. You can sort it out. You can understand it properly. So this is not going to be a very big deal. So I feel that you practice more and more. But R is very addictive. If you work with R, no. You want me to give a lecture on R first? Pablo?
Yes, sir. So,
You want to learn R as early as possible? Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Every
Then what I will do, I will give one lecture on art in your next class. Okay. I will give one lecture on art so that you will be familiar with art. Then you can start working. All of you can start working. And later on, whatever I am going to teach theoretically, some of the things I will tell you in our environment, how to do that. Fine?
Yeah. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Okay, sir.
okay. I think I should teach you in the beginning itself. No problem. But when I will be teaching you NGS, there is one unit is there on R. So we'll be dealing with many packages of R, which can be useful in understanding the NGS data. So that time also, we will just have a recapitulation. Okay? Yeah. So what I am thinking, we will. Okay, next class I will take an hour. Tomorrow itself I will finish. No problem. Tomorrow class will be an hour. So I have just given you introduction to systems biology. One paper also I have loaded to your classroom. You just go through that paper.